Chelsea versus Barcelona, a big UCL matchup. Everyone knows the deal. Let's start with the squad news. So for Chelsea, Romeo Lavia is doubtful. Cole Palmer is out, and then of course Mykhailo Mudryk is in the Nether Realm, and then of course they also have Levi Colwill out. So the X factor loss for Chelsea here is Cole Palmer. Regarding Barcelona, they have Rashford as doubtful, but I think he'll be available. I think he's back in training actually from his illness. Gavi and Ter Stegen are 100% out. I think Pedri's now been confirmed to be out, which is a big loss for Barca's team, of course, but especially their midfield. And then it says Balde's going to be out, but I don't think that's going to be the case. The starting lineups that are possible according to SofaScore: Robert Sanchez in net for Chelsea, Reece James, a center back pairing of Chalobah and Fofana, and then of course I'm going to go with Cucurella at left back. So the DMs are going to obviously be Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo. They're going to go with João Pedro at 10 since Palmer is out, and then wingers of Pedro Neto at right wing with Garnacho at left wing. And then of course Liam Delap at the 9. For Barcelona, they're saying Chelsea is going to start. It's going to be Joan Garcia, of course. That's obvious. Koundé at right back, Ronald Araujo and Kubarsi at center back, Balde at left back. They're going to go with De Jong and Eric Garcia as pivots, and I think Eric's going to start over Casado because Eric's been very good recently in any position that he's played. Fermin Lopez at the 10, Yamal, Lewandowski, and Ferran Torres as an attack. Now, does Rafinha start this game? Did he get enough minutes after his injury against Bilbao? I don't think so. He only got 10 to 15 minutes, but he might start this game. You never know. Also, Rashford could start. So I don't think this is accurate. These lineups are too accurate regarding the true most possible lineups. But I would be lying if I was saying to you that I've watched enough of Chelsea this season to make a solid prediction based on how they play, because I haven't watched enough of them. I know they're second in the Premier League. They're 1 point ahead of Man City, and then of course everyone's like 5-6 points behind Arsenal. But from what I've seen of them performance-wise, they've had some very strong moments. They've had some shaky moments. They drew to Charabag in the UCL recently. Is it form on this tab? Yeah. So pre-match standings form. Both teams have 7 points, same record. Barca has like 2 or 3 more goal difference. The most recent dropping of points happened for both teams. For Chelsea, click on this. For Chelsea, they drew a 2-2 away to Charabag. Now, a team of Chelsea's level should never be drawing to Charabag, but Barca also drew to Club Brugge, and that should also never be happening. So both teams have been shaky this season. Both teams have their strengths, of course. But where will the game be played? Where will the game be won for both teams? First of all, it's important to know that both teams need to win. If you go to the standings, only the top 8 in this competition make it directly off to the round of 16. The rest of the teams up until the 24th place have to play an extra round of, knockout football, and you really don't want that necessarily, but both these teams need to win because after this game, I think every single team will only have 3 games left to play. So this is a must-win game for both Chelsea and Barcelona, and I think name-wise, team sheet-wise, on paper-wise, Barca have more big-name players. They have more X factors. You think of somebody like Yamal. Even if he doesn't start, they have Rafinha. So it's going to be, I think Barca have the edge in that regard. Setup-wise, everyone knows, look, Barca have picked up slight form in the past few games after that draw to Club Brugge. And by slight form, I mean they've won games, and their more recent win is a lot more convincing, but the performances have been slightly better. It's not been something that you look at and say, "Wow, this is looking like Barca last season." They're much more controlled. Their defense is doing much better, and they're not letting up chances anymore. No, that's still there. Chelsea are gonna get chances, and any team will get chances against this Barca team, but how many will Barca score is the question. Now, I don't remember the last time this Barca team under Flick had a game where they didn't score a goal. I don't think it's even happened under Flick. But look, it's going to be important to note that without Pedri, it's going to be a very big matchup in the midfield for both teams because of Chelsea's Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo. Now, without Pedri, Barca loses a lot in the midfield. They lose a lot of control. They lose a lot of pressing. They lose a lot of recoveries and defensive work. He just, whatever you can name, Pedri is monstrous in the midfield. Maybe not this season in terms of his form has dropped a little bit, his level has dropped a little bit, but overall, across the last year, 365 days, he has obviously been the best midfielder in the world. And that's obviously the big loss. Now for Chelsea, of course, they don't have Palmer. And in the creative side of the game, the goal scoring side of the game, that's a big loss for them as well. I think João Pedro can do a very good job at 10, though. So, look, like I said, I'm not as well versed on Chelsea as I wanted to be to make this preview. But the point is that Yamal Cucurella is going to be a big matchup. Kunde Garnacho is going to be a big matchup. Both flanks of both teams are going to be a big matchup, and then every position on this essentially this pitch is going to be a big matchup because I think Chelsea, regardless of them having lower level names on their team sheet, they still have players who know how to fulfill their roles. Maybe they're not spectacular, individual footballers, but they know they're very good role fulfillers. I think Liam Dell could do a very good job as a number 9, even though he's not some kind of, demon dribbler, demon playmaker. He's a very good number 9 that can find spaces to make runs and even play on the hold up. I think Lewandowski recently has had a decent form increase, and that's going to be important for Barcelona because, especially this Barca team, unless you have a extremely high level false 9, you need a good number 9 for this team. So I think that's going to be good to see. Hopefully he can translate, his recent form into this Chelsea game. I think Eric Garcia has been elite recently, and look, no one's gonna replace Pedri, but wherever he's played, he's put in some serious shifts. So he's gonna be important. Fermin Lopez, of course, he has been getting goals out of everywhere. Like every game, he's getting a goal. Whether he has a great performance or not, he still manages to get a goal. So look, he's gonna be very important for the press as well. Look, it's going to be a big midfield battle, because everyone knows Caicedo and Enzo. I need De Jong to have a big game with Pedri not there. But De Jong has to have a big game because in the big games, since De Jong has joined Barcelona, he hasn't been necessarily proven, especially for the money he's been given, salary-wise and whatever. So I need him to have a big game and basically lead the midfield because Pedri is out there, and I need whoever is in the midfield of Barcelona, whether it is Eric Garcia, whether Olmo plays or not, they need to maintain control and do not let Chelsea find the wingers and, find the usual pass that Barca concedes from across the pitch. Because when that happens, the game becomes unbearable to watch if you're a Barca fan. So I do not need that to happen. And of course, I need João Garcia to have a big performance again. He's been out of his mind recently, and this season, I think Robert Sanchez, of course, he has a shaky moment in him, but he's also a great goalkeeper for Chelsea. He's done some very big things, recently and this season. And I think look, both goalkeepers are going to be tested. Will Chelsea's center backs be able to handle Barca's attack? Everyone knows Reece James. He's a unit going forward. Of course, he's very good defensively as well. Same goes with Cucurella. I think he's a bit of an underrated fullback because of how people don't like him because of whatever he does. But will the center backs be able to handle it? Can Chalobah handle the combinations of Barca, the movement of Barca? And same thing for Barca. Can Barca handle the combinations out wide for Chelsea? If Caicedo finds one of the wingers, or if João Pedro or finds one of the wingers, or if the wingers are found in general in behind, we know what happens with Barcelona when that happens. So it's going to be a very important must-win game for both teams. Hopefully, obviously, Barca win because, they're on 7 points in the UCL, and they've drawn to Club Brugge recently. So, look, must-win game for both teams. I need Barca to put in a good performance because they have been way too shaky this season and way too underwhelming in the big games, especially in comparison to last season. So, hopefully, there's a big game. Overall, regardless of who wins, I want to see a very good game. Hopefully that's the case. And for a prediction, I'm going to go with 3-2 to Barcelona. So I think Barcelona's going to win 3-2. And let's see what happens.